Welcome to today's StreamingMedia.com web event. I'm Eric Schumacher Rasmussen, the VP and editor of Streaming Media Magazine, and I'll be your host and moderator today for a webinar called Rethinking Video for the Enterprise, using hosted options, APIs, and modularity to enable best-of-breed enterprise streaming solutions. Before we get started, just a couple of program notes. You can submit questions at any time during the event by entering your question in the Q&A box provided, and then you hit the submit button. I will read your questions to the speakers. If the question is appropriate while the speakers are presenting, I'll interrupt and I'll pose it then. Otherwise, I'll wait till a Q&A period at the end of the presentation. But you can submit your questions anytime. And if we don't answer your questions during the live event, we will answer them. Someone will answer them offline after the event. Also, this webinar will be archived within 24 hours for on-demand viewing, and the presentation will be available as a PDF download once the archive is posted. And you'll receive an email once that archive is available. Now I'd like to introduce today's presenters. First, we've got Steve Vonderhaar, who's Senior Analyst with Wainhouse Research in the Enterprising Streaming and Webcasting Division. Chris Knowlton, Principal Lead Program Manager for Microsoft Stream. And Jonathan Discount, Vice President of Solutions Engineering and Technology Evangelization for Hive. And with that, we'll kick things off. I'd like to pass things over to Steve Vonderhaar from Wainhouse Research. Steve.
Hey, Eric, thanks so much for the introduction, and thanks to all of you for joining us for this presentation today. We're going to be talking about the evolution of enterprise streaming platforms and how it charts a new course for the future of online video for business applications. Now, Jonathan from Hive and Chris from Microsoft will be alongside in just a minute, but I want to set the scene by primarily talking about the change that we see ahead. We have an age coming where the way we develop, sell, and implement enterprise streaming platforms is going to change radically. It really is going to be ushering in what we call an age of modularity, which basically means that in deploying single vendor solutions, that we're going to see best of breed vendors start to pop up with specific solutions addressing specific functions of the online video ecosystem within the enterprise. Now, when we talk about the things that need to be done to make online video a reality in day-to-day business communications, it's a lot tougher than just me popping on the camera and starting to talk into my Logitech device here. Rather, what we see happening is there are a lot of people developing a lot of technology, working over a long period of time to create the technology solutions that make it possible for us to field even webinars like this. And then when you take these types of events behind the firewall, there's even more technology that needs to be brought to bear. Really, it takes an entire ecosystem of technologies that we really at Wainhouse Research try to break down into 5 primary silos. You can have content creation capabilities, essentially platforms going out and capturing content from whatever application you might be using to create video. That could be the webcam at your desktop, but it also could be a webcam attached to a web conferencing solution or a video conferencing a standalone device within the conferencing room, even video that you would upload to the web yourself. So today's platforms have to ingest video from a wide range of sources. Then they got to package it on up. They have to look at ways to get that content into formats that are suitable for online distribution. Once that content is distributed, we see need for content management tools, ways to involve analytics or measuring the viewership totals for the content that we do distribute, and then ultimately managing the networks that also bring those videos to the people who are watching the content in the enterprise setting. And today we have a couple vendors who are highly involved in the enterprise platform area. And I'd like to bring in Jonathan Discount. And I've known Jonathan Discount from Hive for more than a decade. Matter of fact, met him at a StreamMedia.com trade show in New York more than a decade ago. And when I met him, he stuck out his hand and said, "Call me JD." And so that's what we're going to do at this during this session. We're going to call him JD. Hello, JD. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks, Steve.
So yes, we're talking. Go ahead, JD.
I would say it would seem change is constant across all of these pillars that you've identified, especially for network distribution. Today, IT managers have to deal with a whole host of challenges or opportunities, depending on how you look at it. They're dealing with cloud first, they're dealing with mobility first, they're dealing with bring your own device trends. They really need to be able to reach users wherever they are. So we're past the days of where you could count on everybody sitting behind a PC in the office with a stable wired connection. Now you have to really count on somebody being anywhere in the network, including off-net. You really have to have a solution that can distribute video with all those use cases.
Now that sounds pretty tough. Now we look at all these pillars of the ecosystem here: creating content, manage it, and measuring what's going on. Does Hive do all those things, or what does Hive look at?
Now, Hive is very, very much focused on just that last pillar you've highlighted, distribution. So our go-to-market plan is exclusively through partners that provide these other aspects of the solution. From encoding, we've worked with folks like Hivision on the encoding side, to folks like Microsoft on the content management side with their live video applications. So we are exclusively dependent on someone else's platform to provide these other aspects. We only come into that last leg, but it is an important leg, as you know, because it can really determine how well that event is received on a corporate network, and it can be very detrimental to the health of the corporate network if you don't have a solution in place for video before you run that large-scale event.
So I think you're foreshadowing a lot of the stuff that we're going to be talking about through the event today, where you can't necessarily depend upon a single vendor to have the best of breed solution at every step of the video ecosystem. It's getting tougher out there, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we find a trend we find with our customers is they're using not just one platform, they're using multiple platforms. Marketing might use one platform for outbound communications. You've got corporate communications with inward-facing video, and everyone wants to use different tools. So we've really come at this from the approach of use the tools you want to create content, manage that content, even control the playback experiences we're doing here. And Hive can help you just with that distribution piece and make sure that no matter what platform you use, we're making sure that content is successfully distributed across the corporate network.
Now, we're going to be talking more about the technologies that make all this happen in terms of using enterprise video within an organization more later on throughout this. But right now, I want to bring in Chris Knowlton, because what we want to do is talk a little bit about some of the ways that organizations are putting this technology to work. So first of all, Chris, welcome to the presentation today. First of all, tell us what your role is within Microsoft. What is your day-to-day task? What are you charged to do?
Yeah, my focus is on Microsoft Stream. We're trying to take that, make it a backbone of a lot of the video streaming that folks use within an enterprise and across education. And so we're integrating a lot with other applications, including Office as well as the Office suite. So think of the ability to do a live broadcast out of PowerPoint someday, or the ability to drop a video into Outlook or OneNote. And you get a sense for some of the things we're trying to enable across the Office suite. But externally, we're also working with a lot of partners, encoder partners, partners like Hive, to going back to the modularity you spoke of earlier, trying to make sure that Stream plays nicely with everybody, so that whatever tools you already have, we can work with those to give you a better end-to-end workflow. So
I guess the big question is, that sounds really nice, Chris. And actually with Stream, you support both live and on-demand content. That's all well, fine and dandy, but how in the heck are people using Stream right now?
Yeah.
What type of applications are they going for?
Yeah. A lot of folks are trying to do, take the video that they see as consumers and expand upon that. So table stakes today, for example, if you want to do an all hands meeting, maybe, a town hall, things like that, you want to be able to reach your audience, not just on specific devices or operating systems, but anywhere, anytime, whether it's a mobile device or a desktop or a tablet. Folks also want to be able to get the message out very quickly. They don't want to have to spend hours setting up something. If they can go to a web browser or an encoding page and click start and go and hit the audience that they want to hit, that's also very powerful. You don't have to wait and plan things days or weeks in advance. There's a lot of time where you want to actually engage customers, or sorry, your employees really in this case, to have a discussion around real-time events that are happening. Maybe you're having a CEO that is changing roles or something, and you want to have a discussion about that quickly, and you want to integrate not only video, but also a chat capability. So your employees can ask questions, do a Q&A, and you might do that through something like Yammer or Teams.
And then you get a great venue for engagement that way, don't you? It's you know, we could have had this webinar using plain old video, but then you wouldn't see me moving my hands and stuff. You can really talk into the camera.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think the last thing, because you mentioned on demand, the other thing I'll mention is that a lot of folks, you know, they make videos, they create videos, they teach each other how to do things, and then it goes somewhere onto a server and disappears, right? It can't be found. And one of the things that we're really focusing on is the ability to have an enterprise search. So you can go to a single known spot in your corporation where you can find all your documents and things, and also find video there, and be able to do a deep search so that you not only find the video, but everywhere that video automatically gets transcripted and is provided for closed captioning and with a transcript down the side of the video, and you can actually search for specific words in the video. So essentially you're taking these what were formerly black boxes of content and knowledge and now making it really accessible to everybody so everyone can find that content they need when they need it, where they need it.
And with all those applications starting to pop up that you're talking about, Chris, really, it really becomes a viral in a nature that people start seeing video work and they start thinking about ways that they can use it in their own communications objectives. As a matter of fact, we asked individuals in a fourth quarter 2017 survey, more than 2,000 end users, whether their organization should be doing more to capitalize on available video technologies. And 1/3 of respondents saying that they strongly agree with the notion of that they should be using more video. Another 47% somewhat agree. So overall, you got 4 out of 5 of those surveyed saying that they should be using video more extensively. But the real important thing here is that also, when you segment those results by the people at the very top of the corporate hierarchy, the C-level executives, almost 60%, 58% strongly agree that they should be using more video. And why is that the case, Chris? Why would C-level executives and actually executives across the spectrum be so interested in putting video to work more aggressively?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a lot of those folks are seeing that a couple of things. One, video is a great way to do communication. It's shown to be very effective as a means for communicating with folks as opposed to email and more traditional forms. Secondly, as the workforce tends to come out of the millennial stage, and they're used to having YouTube and Hulu and all these other video communications at home, as well as Skype and WhatsApp and other things. They're used to that instant communication and being able to see and hear each other. And as they come into the workforce, there's sort of a table stakes expectation that that's how they're going to communicate and that's what they're going to look for, as opposed to some of those more traditional formats. And I think our CXOs, as they see the workforce coming in and see the consumer trends, realize that they need to bring those into the enterprise as well.
Yeah, and what we see happening is that according to that same end user survey that we conduct on an annual basis, there are more and more organizations that are committing themselves significantly to using online video. Back when we conducted our survey in 2015, less than 10% of organizations said that they employed online video and live online events more than 100 times a year, so on average about twice a week. We've seen steady growth over time. 2016, that increased to 12%. 2017, 14% of organizations say that they have made those capabilities available and use online video at least 100 times per year. And what's overall, we see more than 1/4 of organizations surveyed saying that they use live video at least once a week. So we have a growing set of organizations who are committing substantially to the use of online video. The question for you, Chris Knowlton, Mr. Microsoft, is Microsoft a cobbler wearing its own shoes?
Absolutely. I think if you flip to the next slide, I can share that with you. Just in the 1 year period from 2016 to 2017, our monthly average increased 400% year over year. So we're doing, now we're in the area of several thousand broadcasts a month. In this particular chart, which goes back to last year, we were about 1,500 a month. We'd gone up from about 300 the previous year. It's growing really fast. And a lot of that, and if you look at Cisco surveys as well, they show from 2016 to 2021, live online video is increasing 20-fold, they predict. And so this kind of increase is just in line with that on an annualized basis here. And of course, as the tools get easier, whether it's picking up a mobile device and just starting to broadcast, or being able to click and a button on a browser and not have to install anything and start broadcasting right away, it's getting simpler to do. It makes it more accessible. It takes away some of those hurdles that have traditionally slowed down video adoption. And between that and increased network capabilities, which we'll talk about in a little while, it's getting really easy to get high quality content out there and have it look good.
Yeah, and we really are getting to a point where organizations are able to create broadcast quality style events. And as the platforms and tools and technologies get better and better, it becomes a more seamless, more nifty experience for the end users. But nevertheless, IT folks do have to think about some of the key technical trends that make this so, that make online video something that can be used as a regular business communications tool. And really that's all predicated on the whole notion that the way we deploy streaming platforms has changed dramatically over the past 10 years. A decade ago, we saw a lot of organizations essentially tailoring the types of applications that they used on their or the types of platforms and software solutions that they used based on the types of applications that they were seeking to achieve. Those who are looking for outbound marketing-oriented applications look primarily at hosted style solutions that could run on the public web. Those who are looking to enhance employee communications would look at on-premises deployments behind the corporate firewall. And really, and sometimes back in the 2006, 2007 timeframe, Chris, it was like a matter of just glory, hallelujah. If we could get the video from point A to point B and the platform worked, hey, so much the better. So if we just got the solution working and one vendor could make that happen from end to end, that was the way we saw deployments happen. And usually the technologies were used primarily for event-oriented, kind of extending the reach of existing business communications activities. So we're talking about the notion of using it in online training sessions or all hands meetings or webinars like the one you're seeing now. But as we've seen the emergence of software as a service and cloud-based solutions, we really have seen an evolution in the overall marketplace. First of all, this technology is more accessible, easier to use, and more reliable than ever before. And the way that organizations deploy it, they're not so much concerned anymore about just finally getting that video over the finish line. Rather, they're thinking about how to make it a little bit more nifty, to what you were talking about, Chris, the whole notion of having a good end user experience, having a good software interface, really presenting content in a way that's easy for end users to create and easy for those at the other end to watch. You have a situation where the platforms really are focusing more on the ability to enhance the video creation and viewership experience, and whether that's deployed on an on-premise, hybrid, or hosted basis. But because we see a growing adoption of SaaS-oriented applications even behind the firewall, that really opens up a new possibilities, new vistas in terms of how we might think about a deployment of online video solutions for corporate use. As a matter of fact, what we see happening is that the hosted solutions are growing increasingly popular among a corporate group that sometimes in the past were loath to think about any type of on-prem cloud deployment or the deployment of a hosted solution behind a corporate firewall. At least in the streaming world, that has changed dramatically. In our survey that conducted in the fourth quarter 2017, we asked how much more likely are you to use hosted solutions? Are you more likely to be using hosted solutions as opposed to on-premises alternatives? Nearly half, 49% saying they strongly agree with that notion. Another 31% saying that they somewhat agree. And what that really sets the stage for when you move from an on-premises world where the applications are deployed on a one-time basis and are closed ecosystems, typically developed by a vendor who makes sure that all the pieces mesh together. then you get a situation where it's hard to integrate solutions from outside vendors. In a cloud world, however, that all changes. And as we bring back in JD to talk about this, JD, Hive is one of those, I would almost call them a poster child for modularity. Why don't you tell us how you work with others out there?
Absolutely, Steve. As I mentioned before, Hive has an exclusively go-to-market plan around working with partner solutions to deliver video, and that's both on the outbound marketing side as well as the internal communication side. So we work with all the industry-leading solutions in this respect, and it's changing very rapidly. No more than a few years ago, you could have looked at this list and really pigeonholed each of these vendors into an either internal corporate communications application or an outbound marketing. And today that's totally changed. All these solutions participate or compete in all of those use cases. So an IT department or a corporate communications department might want to use the same solution as marketing is using for outbound marketing. They want to use it internally for corporate communications. So as Hive, we have to be able to support all of these. And the trend we see is that our largest customers actually use multiple platforms, and they want to use them however they want to use them. It's up to them. So we really want to put the power in their hands. So from a Hive perspective, we have to support all these with a single deployment. So we like to say, one deployment, one license, many applications with Hive, and that's the case. That's where we see the business. Where we see the business going. So we have to be plug and play, and that continues to be one of our pillars.
Yeah, and really, it's almost like an ice cream shop that would only sell vanilla if you got stuck with a single platform that could only process or handle video in a specific way. Video really is a malleable, flexible tool for creating a wide range of engaging communications. And marketers are likely to use this tool differently than, say, a guy in finance or the legal department, for instance. So really what you're talking about with a modular solution is really the opportunity to not just serve up vanilla flavored video, but a whole range of different options.
Yeah, it used to be that the your outbound marketing drove those cool and sexy use cases for video, like what we're using today, right? Slides, right. Questions, video, and then the internal corporate communications team is relegated to the postage stamp size video, the 300K. Of course, that's all shifted at this point. They expect the same level of quality and interaction you get from that outbound marketing platform on the internal communication side.
Yeah, so when we started talking a couple months ago about this whole concept of modularity and how it's really gaining momentum in the marketplace, Hive came to Wainhouse Research and asked us to take a deeper look into it, to talk to end users, look at some of our survey statistics, and try to paint a picture of what's happening in the marketplace right now. And the product of that effort is a white paper that the Wainhouse Research has published, and that Hive is making available on a complimentary basis. As a matter of fact, after this webinar, if you go to hivestreaming.com/modularity, you'll be able to download a copy of that report. And one of the things we tried to do in that report, JD, was really take a look at some of the ways that organizations are benefiting from implementing modular style solutions. And one of the complaints of organizations that have deployed on-premises or very closed systems in the past is that really you're stuck with a platform for multiple years that may or may not be addressing your entire suite of video communications needs. So if you have a superb platform for town hall meetings, that's great, but it might not necessarily have the software interface that makes for a good training session, for instance. So there's a need to match specific video creation and video creation and management platforms with specific communications needs, something that not every platform out there can do. And with the ability to deploy solutions on a modular basis, you really can tailor those solutions in order to meet the communications needs of different executives within your organizations. And what's more, you're not stuck at one point in time with an on-premises style deployment. Rather, when you have a best-of-breed solution capability, you can take a specific feature and plug it in when it pops up on the marketplace. One of the end users we talked to, JD, actually was very excited about taking their existing Hive platform, for instance, and they use it to create content from a variety of vendors, but they've become aware of the capabilities of the Microsoft Stream platform, for instance, and they're in great shape because they can take their existing networking platform that they already use to handle webinars and town hall meetings and begin experimenting with the Microsoft Stream platform. Can you talk a little bit about how Hive interrelates or integrates with the Stream solution?
Absolutely. Hive has been involved with Microsoft from the very beginning, since their foray into live business events, beginning with Skype meeting broadcast. So we've supported Skype meeting broadcast, Office 365 video, and now Stream and Teams. We've done extensive testing end to end from the encoder side, where you might be using a product from companies like Hivision or Wirecast, all the way through the workflow to where Hive comes into the very last step of distribution and then reporting and analytics. And ease of use has always been a focus with Microsoft and Hive. So enabling Hive on any of these platforms really comes down to running a script or checking a box within an admin portal, as it is today with Stream. We've seen hundreds of activations of Hive across the suite of Microsoft products we support. And that includes a free offer we continue to provide, which is Hive-generated statistics on your Microsoft Live meeting. That allows a customer to get an idea how video looks on their network before they decide if they want to or need to pursue a full video distribution solution.
So, Chris, do you have any I'll throw this up for either JD or Chris to talk about some of the elements of the Hive integration.
Yeah, I'll be happy to speak to this one. This is showing you a screenshot from Microsoft Stream. We're in the admin panel here, and on the lower left, you see it says network caching, and in there, you can easily go ahead and add Hive streaming as your Enterprise Cdn partner. You simply flip on the enable third-party network caching provider switch there. You select Hive streaming from the drop-down, and you enter your customer ID, and you are set to go. It is really a simple implementation. We've done the integration work for you, so all you have to do is basically connect the two accounts, and away you go.
Yeah. So
yeah, we've seen.
Go ahead, Jay.
We've seen dozens of customers activate Hive for Stream. It's really only been a matter of weeks, just a couple of months since the live component launched, and we've already seen dozens of customers activate, most without requiring any assistance from Hive or Microsoft.
Now, that's a big point that you make about not having any assistance, because one of the things that we're seeing is that when you're looking at next generation enterprise video, some of the things that you're looking at here are pretty daunting when you're implementing the technology anywhere across the ecosystem. We talked about some of the capabilities before that are required of a really true enterprise grade platform. You have to be able to ingest the content from anywhere. You have to be able to integrate with a wide range of communication solutions, even enabling on-demand libraries. And really, at every step of the way, the ability to implement solution vendors and products that are specifically tuned to addressing those specific needs is critical to really driving a true, easy-to-use, accessible, flexible type of enterprise streaming platform. But we can talk about all those other capabilities, but when we survey executives, it's clear that networking is job one. We asked individuals who are at companies that use online video more than 100 times a year, and asked them to identify these technology features that are very important to their streaming purchase technology solution. Look at the top of this chart. It's security all around, maintaining network security, distribute video without harming the corporate network, enabling distribution on mobile devices. It's all about, JD, it's all about getting content from point A to point B. So how did we get here in terms of from the way we used to distribute content to the ways, maybe if you can take us through a little short journey, if you will, about what are some of the former best practices in terms of getting content shuttled around, and where is the market taking us now?
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, let's go a little trip down memory lane. Let's talk about the very brief history of enterprise video distribution. I like to put into three broad categories of solutions. There's using your own existing network, really essentially IP multicast. Technology has been around almost 20 years now. A second paradigm we see is deploying an overlay network on top of your existing network, aka an Enterprise Cdn. We'll talk about that in a moment. The last category I talk about, and this is where my company fits in amongst some others, is pure software distribution, typically done over peer-to-peer, sometimes with the UDP protocol. But first, how does IP multicast work? If you're not familiar with it, it's a feature that's been on routers, again, for decades. It allows very, very highly efficient distribution of information, including video. It wasn't originally built for video, but it was ported for video utilization relatively early. But it basically copies that video stream, if you will, gives each viewer essentially access to that same video stream at the router level. So it's very, very efficient on a networking basis to distribute video. The challenges that folks had with this.
It'd be great if JD, if everybody deployed it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, most organizations have struggled with this. If you have a large global network, it's really a patchwork of networks from acquisitions and growth in the company. Making multicast work across that network is a huge challenge. And what we found too is all of the innovation in video was on the consumer side with HTTP. That doesn't work over multicast. So multicast, most folks consider to be end of life. It's been end of life on the Windows platform for Windows Media for some time.
Flash.
End of life on the Flash platform as well. Exactly. So, no one's putting in multicast networks today to do video, but some customers do hang on to these, and they're still trying to make use of them even today.
There's some legacy applications out there, but if you don't have multicast, then what do you do?
Well, the next solution, the next paradigm that you see in the market is the conventional Enterprise Cdn or eCDN. This is typically deploying some type of hardware, virtual or otherwise, or server really, in the network. If you can package storage with that server, you can really do a highly efficient treatment for VOD, especially. It involves placing servers or appliances in key locations within the network. It's value prop for live, not so much. It can actually act as a bridge between unicast and multicast, but really Enterprise CDN shines with VOD. The challenge with Enterprise CDN, though, is the cost and the time to value. You're talking about deploying some number of appliances, could be thousands of appliances across a global network. That's a project that's measured in years, months or years. So it's costly. It's a long time to implement. And we know how cycles go with technology. As soon as you roll it out, you're going to be replacing it with something new. And
then if you're relying on appliances, sometimes the guy in the Des Moines office doesn't get access to that video for 5 or 6 years. Kind of defeating the purpose of doing video in the first place, isn't it?
Absolutely. And there's huge challenges shipping this type of gear abroad to areas like India, China, Brazil. So it's setting up your own eCDN for video or otherwise is a very daunting process.
So how do you cut the costs? How do you tackle this?
Well, I'm going to talk about my third category here, which is software-based solutions, which is where I'm going to drop peer-to-peer as a solution. Peer-to-peer does, of course, involve deploying some software out on the company network. Generally, Hive, along with other similar solutions, does depend on an agent that's typically deployed on all Windows or Mac devices or any devices that are available in the network. But however, rarely, if ever, requires any changes to the network from a structural perspective. there's no appliances, there's no servers to put in. You're really dependent on your endpoints that have that software. Obviously, that requires some IT assistance, but rolling out software to endpoints is pretty rote these days. It's pretty straightforward. We've seen customers deploy 50,000 agents within 48 hours. So it's certainly something that you can do measured in days, weeks, rather than months, years. And the way a peer-to-peer solution works is it uses excess capacity on the local area network. So we'll pull in a single video stream, say from a public CDN, provided as part of one of the other solutions we talked about earlier. Could be Stream, could be solutions from companies like TalkPoint, On24. We'll pull in a single stream, a unicast stream into the network. It's going to pull that across those internet gateways and those WAN links that you have within the network, generally where you are constrained in some way on capacity. And then it's going to share that stream internally on the internal network, where you typically have ample capacity. You're dealing with gigabit switching and whatnot. So you're really offloading that traffic from your restricted, constrained links deeper in the network where you have excess capacity. Peer-to-peer generally runs as an agent, like I said. There's some developments I'm going to talk about in 1 second. And its really goal is to act as a transparent proxy between the video application and the content source, the CDN.
So things that you're talking about here, JD, really made the Q&A boards light up. I'd like to call in Eric Schumacher Rasmussen, our moderator in chief, and see if he has any questions from the audience here related to some of these P2P issues, causing quite a bit of furor over there. Eric, why don't you fire away?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Having worked in the industry for 15 plus years and seeing how P2P has sort of fallen out of favor and in favor and out of favor. And, P2P has always kind of been a little bit of a dirty word for reasons that really go all the way back to things like Napster and these clients that were being used out in the wild to help people do nefarious things. But it also carries with it some other concerns that enterprises have typically had in terms of machine resources, network issues as well. JD, are you finding that the resistance to P2P is still there in the enterprise, or has that changed?
Yes, from Napster to the Pirate Bay to BitTorrent, lots of great stories in there. Yeah, we've actually found that resistance to peer-to-peer has reduced dramatically. From a practical perspective, though, you really can't compare something like Napster, Pirate Bay, or even BitTorrent to the software solutions that we're talking about here. When you buy a solution from Hive, or even Hive's competitors that also provide peer-to-peer solutions, you're buying a commercial enterprise software product. It's its own unique algorithms. It comes with the same guarantees and SLAs you expect when you buy enterprise software. So it really bears no relationship to tools. Software is a tool. It bears no relation to software tools that may have been used, as you said, Eric, for nefarious purposes. So from a practical perspective, I think that's a pretty minor concern. From a technology perspective, though, and how it functions, that's also a concern, though. So anybody who's got a teenager that has access to their ISP and BitTorrent and might be downloading the latest version of Call of Duty, we know that tools like BitTorrent will saturate the network. They're designed to do that. And the reality is that the biggest difference between BitTorrent and a product like Hive or any of our competitors in this space is we're designed to actually use the corporate network very judiciously, very conservatively. We actually listen on the wire to make sure there's no other traffic. We'll actually throttle back the peer-to-peer mechanisms if we detect other traffic. So our goal, if we were delivering video at the cost of other network traffic, we really wouldn't be doing our job. So really, the goal of Hive and other solutions similar to this is to deliver video to high-quality video to every viewer in the organization without affecting your other network business critical traffic.
Yeah, so what you're saying, JD, is you're not just some big old fat dumb pipe in the enterprise, huh?
No, it's very smart software. I hesitate to use the word SDN. It's a loaded term, software-defined networking. It's a term of art. As we know, it means different things to different people. If you work for Cisco or Juniper, it means one thing. But in this case, we really are defining the network through software. It's very, very dynamic how a peer-to-peer solution works to find the best path to the content for each user.
Now, when you're in that hosted environment, talk a little bit about some of the technologies we see coming down the pike, particularly WebRTC, and how that plays into the whole software as a service model.
Yeah, WebRTC is a very exciting topic for us right now. And for those who don't know, WebRTC stands for Web Real-Time Communications. It's a standard that's been advanced, I think, mostly by Google, but it's become a feature in many products today. Many applications already depend on WebRTC that we use today, including many of the peer-to-peer or IM applications, rather, on the consumer space. The way WebRTC works is it just needs a browser to communicate browser to browser. So at Hive, what we've done is we ported our product from being an installable desktop agent to working exclusively within the browser. And the power of this is that you can now have viewers optimizing that network traffic, getting the best quality of experience from that video stream, all without any additional software. The biggest drawback today is limited browser support. Today, we depend on Chrome and Firefox for this. We hope soon that Apple OS, Mac OS 10, Safari will support it. It's on the way, and we're hoping that Microsoft will do it as well in Microsoft Edge. We've talked to Microsoft about this numerous times. There's something they're looking at as well. But it'd be
That's
very,
not
very
Chris's
powerful.
department now.
I know.
We got to know that. So
yeah.
Present company excluded here, Chris.
But the promise of this is that you could have a top quality enterprise video distribution solution without installing any additional software. We already tried this with some customers that have a suggested or proper browser mix for it. It works extremely well. It's not quite as efficient as having the full agent, but in many cases it does the job. And without having to roll out software, it's a tremendous value prop.
Yeah. Now you talk about it getting cheaper, but I want to pick back up on a theme we were talking about just before that about making networks smarter, and that it's not about just having a dumb old pipe in the enterprise shelling bits around, but rather there's some intelligence that goes behind that. Chris, when you folks are implementing or using video to the extent that you're using it at Microsoft, what are some of the issues that you're finding?
Yeah, we not only internally, but when we look at what most of our customers tell us is that
Right.
For them, network as soon as we get IT involved, networking is the first question, right?
Right.
And a lot of it is, I'm not sure I want to install that unless I understand what it's going to do to my network, or you tell me how you're helping me solve it better. And so there are a number of things that come to mind. Not only do they want to understand what's happening as far as traffic flow, and to JD's earlier points, be cognizant of the other traffic on the network and be a good player there. You also want to be able to see in real time what's happening. You want analytics, you want stats, you want to know, are my network segments remaining open to other business, or am I starting to slam, some of my, congest some of my network segments so that I'm not delivering the rest of my content very well, or the video is not getting out very well. You also want to make sure that if you are delivering across a whole bunch of different offices, if you have everybody in one campus, that might dictate one solution. If you have everybody across, 30 different offices or 100 different stores or something, you need to think about how you're going to get the traffic across. Is it across WAN links? Is it from the internet down to each of those offices? So you want to know that your traffic across all these different links is going to be well handled as well, not just within one particular location. And you just know that if you are doing a live event that might have thousands or tens of thousands of people watching, like again, if you have a CEO announcing a change or something, it might get a whole bunch of viewers if you're a large organization, and you want to make sure that if you suddenly have 10,000 viewers watching an event, you are also not negatively impacting your network. And so now Microsoft Stream doesn't include anything that specifically talks about or allows you to manage your network, and that's why we rely on partners like Hive, because you can go to Hive and they'll give you that real-time event analysis. They'll be able to give you diagnosis of how your network is performing now, let you look at it afterwards and understand if there are any spots you need to go work on. And with their solution, of course, they're deploying, client peering technology, the peer-to-peer agent that JD referred to. And you get a really good sense from the information coming back from each of those how the streaming is going on a per client basis and a per region basis. You just get some really great depth of information that you wouldn't get otherwise.
So JD, talk about how smart a smart pipe can ultimately be.
Well, no matter what solution you select to help you distribute video on the enterprise network, some key things you want to look at and consider are having a solution that helps you understand the viewer QoE or quality of experience. So how often are viewers buffering? Is that buffering concentrated amongst in a particular office, in a particular geography, or just individual users? You want to understand how quickly the stream starts up. You want to understand participation by location. So which offices had the most viewers, which offices had the best quality of experience. These are great statistics that are very useful across the organization, especially the folks that are owning that message and delivering that content. You want also the ability to filter and look at this data on a global basis, potentially an office basis, or even down to the individual viewer level. And you should have tools to allow you to filter it dynamically. You know, if you want to know how did wireless perform versus wired, that's a common question that IT has when they run these types of events. And lastly, it's important to make sure that you have a solution that can export that information to a third-party or external reporting system. A lot of folks have built their own dashboards. They rely on that data to be able to communicate up to management. So the ability to export that data is something you should also be looking at when you're looking at solutions.
Yeah, if you can't export that data, it's pretty much worthless from a business perspective, I would guess.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, at Hive, we pride ourselves in our layout, but the bottom line is our layout won't work for everybody. I mean, everybody has different requirements for those reporting requirements they have to management.
So Chris, I guess no matter how much somebody spends on a corporate network, there's always room for improvement with those things, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's always good to have solutions that you know are going to work and be able to measure. This is actually something that you saw on the previous slide, an example of from Hive, where customers love this kind of thing, where they can see at a glance what their global distribution network looks like. They can roll out Hive insights ahead of time, see exactly where they're struggling. Like in this map, you see a little bit of red, a little bit of orange, showing that there's a little bit, trouble in some of those regions, which you might expect for South America and Africa, which don't have the greatest infrastructure when it comes to networking sometimes. And so, knowing what your baseline is, and then being able to go and deploy something easily to JD's point, in days or months, and then being able to instantly see the results and see that you actually get this great improvement where everything goes to green, it can be very powerful, not only from a networking perspective, but also from a quality of experience perspective.
And so your customers, you find this is a great tool for talking with your customers. If they can essentially see where the little red spots are popping up, even if they think that they have a great network, they would start blaming other parts of the platform, other parts of the ecosystem, when they really are solvable problems within the network itself.
Yeah, absolutely. This not only relieves a lot of the concerns they have, but it gives them actionable ways to go and solve those concerns that they discover during the process. Yeah,
it's like if a doctor does an X-ray or does an exam, that's how they figure out what needs to be done for the next treatment. So it really becomes a diagnostic type of capability. But you don't have to upend the whole world to make that diagnosis, do you, JD?
No, you don't, Steve. Another key factor that key feature you want to consider when you're looking at these types of solutions is the ability to test the end-to-end workflow before you run that C-level event. So basically what that involves is reproducing the entire production workflow from encoder down to your distribution solution, and running that before the event, perhaps at the same time of day for the network when you expect to have the CEO speak. It could be a day before, it could be a week before. But the goal there is to collect information to understand, will this webcast be successful? And that's something you couldn't do in older solutions that work with multicast or even Enterprise Cdns. So the ability to basically simulate, do a silent test of the event before the CEO speaks is a tremendously useful feature. We use that when we deploy the Hive solution to not only tune the Hive solution, but also help the customer understand where they might have problems. Oftentimes, the customer knows where those problems are going to be. They expect them sometimes. But they can also use a tool like this to troubleshoot their own network and understand if they have a router that's not working properly in a particular office, your firewall's blocking traffic in another office, this is the time to find out, right? Not during the event. So the ability to
I love that term. I love that term, silent test, because essentially it gives the IT executive a chance to, or the IT administrator, a chance to work on the problems when the glare of performance isn't, or the spotlight of performance isn't glaring straight upon them. They can essentially take a measured approach to fixing the problems on the network and developing a little bit better understanding of how to address these before they get in trouble in the spotlight.
Yeah, the key is giving the enterprise and IT, the corporate communications people, the applications people, giving them the confidence to run that event.
So I think we've shared a broad range of information here, fellas, and I think we need to take a step back now. Bring Question Master Eric back into the scene here, and we have a few more minutes left for Q&A right at the end of the session. So certainly we'll be able to be available to individuals after the event, but hopefully we can answer as many questions as possible in the few moments we have left. Eric, do you have thoughts on directions where we can fill in some of the holes that address issues that people want to know about?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a few questions here. Some are very specific and some are more general. So I'll start with some of the more general ones first, and we still have time if you want to submit a question. We have plenty of time to get to it. But one question is, and this will be for JD. JD, you talked about WebRTC before. If WebRTC itself offers so many improvements, why would an enterprise need to install a client like a Hive agent rather than doing it without?
Yeah, that's a good question, Eric. We may get to a point one day where that there is that level of parity between using WebRTC rather and using an agent. We're not there yet. The biggest gap, as I mentioned before, is the browsers. We don't have uniform support for all the WebRTC libraries and APIs yet. And it's a big gap at this point. Like I said, we're still waiting on some support in tools or products like Microsoft Edge, Apple Mac OS 10 Safari. But if the organization has the proper deployment, the only other consideration is what I mentioned before, silent testing or testing the event before. That does require an agent typically. The only drawback with WebRTC in that regard is that you're only invoking the product when you're actually running the browser. So you have to be actually looking at the event in your browser to be tracked. So you lose some of that, and you also lose the ability to do more advanced VOD caching use cases as well. So for now, it's a great solution to extend the reach of perhaps an agent-based deployment, but it's not ready to replace the agent-based deployment yet.
Okay, thanks. The next question is actually for Steve, and Steve, this is kind of a curveball. It's not a question that's been submitted from the audience, but it's one that I had when you were going through some of your earlier slides.
Go ahead, stump the band, Eric. Give me your best.
Exactly. One of your early slides, you talked about how many people in corporations, particularly CEOs, want to see more video being used. I'm curious as to whether in your research you have found out what's stopping them. What are the roadblocks that are making it difficult for video to be used more widely?
Well, you have both technical and cultural issues that are associated with this. So let's address one of the biggest things is cultural issues related to this. It's the people who are making decisions really are not associating video with business communications. When we do our surveys gauging use, deployment, perceptions of online video, adoption and interest in these technologies, it demonstrates that there's a generation gap. Those under 40 totally see video as just a common communications tool that's just part of a larger toolbox of solutions that can be used to deliver the right type of message at the right time. video is not right for quick, immediate, short, bursty type of conversations. But when you're looking for engagement, when you're looking to really look into somebody's eyes and understand what's happening, that's when video really shines. So those over 40, according to survey results, really don't get that so well. They see video really in the couch potato mode. They see video as a medium to be consumed while they're sitting in the living room watching TV, as opposed to a data type that can really be sprinkled throughout a range of business communications to make them more lively, more engaging, more impactful in the day-to-day business communications experience. Now, from a technical standpoint, we talked about how concerns over networking are key. You also got to be looking for platforms that provide security, that make sure that you adhere to the Hippocratic oath of streaming, and that means first, do no harm by implementing video-oriented solutions. The state-of-the-art enterprise-grade platforms do deliver on that promise, but still it takes a little bit of convincing when you're dealing with IT folks who are reticent to embrace change, reticent to embrace what they would consider to be risk. There's a challenge for vendors to convince some IT administrators who might be a little bit more backward looking that these solutions indeed are secure. They do the job, and they're not going to incur any risk by implementing these solutions.
All right, thanks a lot, Steve, for those insights. And I think we're certainly going to see things change as the demographics change, but also as even over 40 folks, like, dare I say, us, get exposed to more video and see how important it can be in regular communications. The next couple of questions are actually for Chris Knowlton. We've got some interest in Microsoft's offerings, particularly Stream. One of our attendees asks, how does Microsoft Stream integrate with the other video solutions that Hive presented? And I think this question is referring to that slide that showed how Hive integrates with these various other platforms. But maybe you could just give us a better sense of how Microsoft Stream integrates with other video solutions that are out there on the market, as well as with Hive.
Yeah, that's a fair question. Today, Stream is fairly much a standalone solution. It is not highly integrated with other video platforms per se. I could see a world where someday it could be the backbone of such a platform, but it's not there today. What it does do is integrate with a lot of other similar products. For instance, one of the slides JD had up showed Yammer, Teams, Yammer, what was and I think what was the other one? Yammer, Teams, a few other Microsoft products on it. Actually, I think he had.
Yeah, Office 365 video and Skype meeting broadcast.
Yeah, that's it. Right, exactly. Very much. So let me talk about that. Office 365 video is out there. It's been out there for a few years. Stream is effectively replacing it. All the customers who are currently on Office 365 video will migrate to Stream. Stream is built on a newer infrastructure that will allow it to scale better and provide more interactivity. So that makes sense to us that we just sort of have it subsume the Office 365 video world. It also integrates seamlessly with Teams and Yammer to provide the live video experiences that you see there, as well as being able to drop an on-demand video in any of those feeds and have it play back automatically. With third parties, we're mostly focusing today on encoding partners and on distribution partners. So basically those two ends of the workflow, how to get the content in and then how to get it out to a broader audience.
All right, thanks.
If I can add, Chris, one of the things that we've heard in talking with, one large retailer that we're familiar with that has deployed, for example, Zoom video conferencing services. They've worked with Microsoft APIs internally, essentially to make that Zoom platform work in conjunction with Microsoft Stream. So certainly from what we've seen in terms of not every organization is going to want to do that development on their own, and certainly you're going to want to productize those types of relationships, but also know that there's the opportunity for Microsoft with its open API or its API infrastructure that it has in place to enable a wide range of integrations over time.
Yeah, that's a really key point. We have a lot of customers who have found interesting ways to combine various technologies already. Certainly, as we move ahead further and put more APIs, make them publicly available, then it's going to be a lot easier to do some really interesting integrations, and we'll probably have much more to talk about on that in 12, 18 months from now.
Well, all right, Chris, we'll look forward to that, and we'll look forward to hearing more from Hive Streaming. That just about wraps things up here. I'd like to again thank our speakers, Steve Vonderhaar from Wainhouse Research, Jonathan Discount from Hive Streaming, and Chris Knowlton from Microsoft. We've had a number of questions in the Q&A panel asking if the slide deck will be available and asking if this session will be available for on-demand viewing. At the top of the hour, I said that it should be available within 24 hours or so. It might take a little longer than that, but you will receive an email letting you know when the archive is available and when the slides can be downloaded. Also, just for attending today's event, you are entered into a drawing to win an Echo Dot, and the winner will be announced on October 31st, Halloween. You'll also get an email from Streaming Media if you have won. That wraps things up for this webinar today. Thanks again to all of you who attended and all of our speakers, and have a great day.